You are live. Hello, everybody. We'll go ahead and get this timer started. If you are joining us, please leave a comment, whether you are on YouTube or if you are on Facebook, where you're joining us from. We really want to know where you're joining us from. We'd like to see where this live stream is going, and we're getting ready to get started. We're all in the back area right now, the green room, if you will, getting ready to go live to answer all of your questions about audio. So we will talk to you in about 2 minutes. Hello, 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 and welcome. I just want to make sure everybody can hear me okay. Make sure we are getting out there to the world. I hope everybody's having a great morning so far. So if you could just put in the comments below that you can hear me, that we are broadcasting, that we are sounding nice and crisp, that would be awesome. So today, I'm actually super excited about today's topic. This is one that is super important to me, as I think it's one of the most important parts of all video, of all, but all just audio in general is this art form, if you will, that get a little flicker going on. I'm at the store, so I don't have my set like you've seen in the last couple days. Had to come in early and knock some stuff out. But today's topic is audio and audio for video. But if you do have any questions, please feel free to reach out about any aspects of audio. So I'm going to jump over just a few housekeeping things before we get started. And that is, I do have some friends that'll be monitoring the chat for us. So if you do have questions, and since I'm not the one that's going to be presenting, I'll also be in the chats as well, just queuing up questions for our guests today. So we are open at the store. So if you guys do need something, we are open from 1 to 5. We have curbside pickup. So just kind of pull up, pop your trunk. We'll throw your stuff in there, or we can ship it right to your door on most of the items that we carry. So please, if there is anything that you need, please let us know. As far as the live streams, so the stay-at-home order has been extended to, I believe, April 30th. So looks like we're going to be doing live streams until then. So I've been lining up guest hosts so you don't have to just see my ugly mug and hear my voice. I've got guests coming on. And my goal is to just bring you guys what you need. So please let me know if there's some topics that you want me to investigate. Let's say you've always wanted to do macro photography on a transcontinental flight so I probably couldn't go that in depth, but if you're like, hey, I want to know a little bit more about gigapans and how they work, or I want to know about how to make better panoramas, then just let me know. Shoot me a message, or put it in the comments, and I'll be more than happy to help you out. Our goal is to do this every day at noon, but there probably will be some bonus episodes, just kind of as schedules, don't always align at noon. Happy that our guest today, Ryan, was available at noon EST to do this, but they might kind of have some bonus content in there as well. So another thing, this is something that I bring up at the beginning of, or the top of every broadcast, is PPA. So the PPA, or Professional Photographers of America, is offering up all of their educational content free of charge for the next couple weeks. So if it's up here, chances are it's still going on. I check it in the morning before we go live, and this costs you absolutely nothing. They've done this, just they know photographers aren't working right now, and they want to make sure that you get your fill, if you will, of educational content that can help you be a better photographer and a better business. So I think that's super important. What are our goals today? So the goals today are pretty clear. Number one, I want to pull you away from the fear, uncertainty, and doubt that is around us right now. There's a lot of negativity in the news. So there's a lot of positivity as well, but a lot of it tends to be a little bit more negative. We don't know kind of what tomorrow holds, as far as we've never really gone through this. It's not like in the history books where we can go back through and see, how these different challenges that we're facing, how we take them step by step. So that's what we're doing. We're trying to pull you away from that, even if it is just for a half hour, 45 minutes every day, and remind you that you have this awesome hobby, this, whether it's photography, video, or audio, that you have these hobbies to fall back on that you can kind of distract yourself with during these times. And also, my goal is to motivate you. I want you to try something new. The growth really happens for you in your personal life and your photography career when you get outside of that comfort zone. So, for me, audio is one of those things. Audio is one of those things where I need a lot of help. And that's where our guest today has been a huge resource for me. But if I not gone outside of that comfort zone, I wouldn't have the knowledge needed to put on a live stream, to help others, to do a YouTube video, to do those things. But I took the time to get outside of my comfort zone and learn as much as possible about audio. And this is that. I mean, this is also me being selfish, that I want to learn a little bit more about audio too. And that's why I welcomed our guest on. And then finally, my goal is to maybe help you discover a new niche that could be profitable in your future. So, let's say you've never thought about, doing video, but because this whole audio thing, you were unsure how it all worked. Well, maybe now that you get this little bit of training and learn a little bit more about microphones and how audio works, now you'll be more apt to try video and try something with audio or maybe a podcast. This is going to hopefully maybe, create something for you in the future. And as always, if you have any questions or you want a copy of the resources, please feel free to reach out, and I'll have my contact information at the end of the presentation as well. So I'm going to look over in the comments, see if we have anything. Looks like we have some people joining us. Hello, Raul from Strongsville, Ohio. Sounds good. We can hear you loud and clear. And then the Facebook user says, hello, TJ. So hello, whoever that Facebook user is. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and add in our friend here, get him unmuted. So Ryan, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can. So if we could just get a confirmation in the chat that there is life out there, if you will. So Ryan, tell me a little bit about yourself. So we know you work for Rode. That was in the kind of the pre-roll or all the kind of some of the advertising and stuff that we did for this. But tell me about yourself. So how did you get into audio?
Funny enough, it started in high school. I think a lot of people kind of start back in theater and stuff like that. For some reason, I don't even know why my high school principal asked me sophomore year to man our new sound booth and the entire new theater. We moved into a new high school, and I guess she trusted me. So from there on out, for the next 3 years, I was a sound guy for all of our theater productions. And that extended into meetings for even the principal and their staff and everything like that. So I get out of school all the time. That was kind of the benefit for,
nice.
One of the things that kind of motivated me a little bit more to do it and continue to do it. I caught the bug, and the rest of it from there was kind of figuring out how to get into the professional industry after that. So live sound and different things like that.
Nice. And I see all this like awesome gear, and I have to say, like, you look pro. And it's funny, we were setting this up. If anybody watched our Instagram last night, I did kind of a behind the scenes as we were testing this. So I wanted to point out, if you join me for the webcam talk that we have, Ryan is actually on a MacBook, an older MacBook, if I remember correctly.
2012.
Okay, so an old MacBook, and we used the app that I suggested in that webcam training to get him dialed in. I think he looks pretty awesome, especially for just a webcam. So I'm on a PC right now, and I don't have that app. So you can see, like, mine keeps changing. I don't have that manual control. But I do want to call out Ryan. He put a lot of time into, like, getting lights and prepping for this. So I want to say thank you so much for taking the time. And just, you know how important this is, not only to me, but kind of our users at this time. So thank you for putting in that extra little bit to make yourself look awesome, because it looks really good.
I appreciate it. Thanks for your help as well. Like you said, kind of in the intro, everybody needs a little bit of help with audio when you're a video person. When you're not a video person, you need a little bit of help from that. So thank you for helping me on that side of things.
Absolutely. So we're going to jump over to our presentation today. So what are we going to be talking about? What is the main kind of goal from your point of view of what we're going to be talking about?
Definitely today is going to be some bullet points that I pulled. We don't want to, take everybody's time, but at the same time, I have a few, I wouldn't necessarily call them rules, but I mean, you could think of them as rules that then you can go and use those for whatever you're going to do. Rules are meant to be broken, but you should probably know the rule first so that you can then be aware of what you're going to do. So I got some bullet points to really drive home a few of the things that I always focus on right from the start. A couple things like mic selection, a couple mantras that I kind of ramble out every single time I do a presentation. And then we're definitely going to open up for application questions. I'd like to hear from everybody out there as far as what problems are they having? And then hopefully in real time, I can just give them my suggestions as to what they would do.
Awesome. Well, let's go ahead and get your presentation loaded in here, and I will disappear for a little bit, and I will let you kind of take it over.
All right.
Here we go. I'll let you go full screen there. Perfect.
Excellent.
Oh, I don't want to be the guy presenting. I want you to be the guy presenting.
Let me know when we're there.
You are good to go.
All right, cool. So yes, as TJ was saying, and TJ, thank you for having me out here, man. Really appreciate that and getting this going. You, the Pixel Connection, thank you for having me on.
Happy to be here. Happy that you're here. I have to be here. I'm happy that you're here.
Right. Well, a little bit of both, right? Yeah. So I'm the U.S. product specialist for Rode Microphones. If you're not familiar with us, Rode is a Sydney, Australia company that is actually the warehouse as it stands today. Incredible manufacturing and processing going out there. Peter Friedman, the guy who created the company, has done an amazing job getting this whole thing to be just a very smooth working unit out there in Sydney, Australia. So if you touch a Rode microphone, it is going right out of that warehouse right there. And down to the lathing, down to the accuracy, we beat the microphones to a pulp just to make sure that when they're done, that what you're getting is a wonderful product that is actually durable and going to be very usable for you. So today, like I was saying, audio for video, we're going to try to make it a little bit easier. The basic techniques, first and foremost, this kind of falls into things like signal flow. Your a couple of mantras that I go with every time. Microphone selection, it's a crucial part. The first thing you should be asking yourself are a couple very important things to make sure you get the right microphone for the job you're doing. After that, microphone features, you kind of step into what buttons on this thing are usable. And maybe it's not even a button. Maybe it's just, again, by choosing the right microphone. And then, like I said, number 4, application questions. Pretty simple, pretty painless. So first and foremost, basic techniques. My 2 mantras that I say in every single presentation that I do. It's not how far from the microphone you can get. It's the first question I get every single time I go and talk with a customer at a vendor day, a rep day, or if I'm just talking to a friend. Shotgun microphones. We've all probably heard that term. Scientifically, if you're not aware, it's what's usually called a supercardioid or a hypercardioid microphone. A little more on that later. But the first feature is, oh, I can get farther away from this microphone. No, it is not. In fact, it's still how close can I get to that microphone without ruining my shot? It's why Hollywood takes a boom arm of some kind and puts a $5,000, $10,000 microphone directly above your face. It is always and forever, no matter how good or bad that microphone supposedly is, to get it as close as humanly possible. It's going to get rid of room reflections and all kinds of things. So number 2, professional audio. Although it is about capturing good audio, it's about removing the bad. You have to remove the bad. A good microphone, and many microphones just for that matter, are going to pick up so much. Right now I'm in an office that I've kind of turned into a studio. It's not perfect. It's what we call a shoebox in the audio world. So you got to try to make it a little bit better by not having those sounds bounce off the wall and come back. A little bit ahead of time here, but I'm using a dynamic microphone, the pod mic from Rode, and I'm putting it on a boom arm. I'm getting it closer to me so that I remove some things, like maybe an air conditioner kicks on. Things like a roll-off can do that. That's in features of a microphone. But just those beginner things that are problematic in a room can really be, you're looking for that last thing to make your audio perfect. And the way to do that is to not necessarily just capture it. It's really easy to just put this microphone right in front of my face. It's harder to get rid of those other things. Turn off that air conditioner. If you're using the right polar pattern, the right capsule type, maybe you can get rid of some of that stuff. So it's not just about capturing good audio. You got to remove the bad as well. And then that makes the good audio you captured that much better. So small things that go a long way afterwards. After that, it's pretty much an art form to just simply make sure that mic is in the right position. Basic technique number 2, and this is probably the most crucial when you're talking about science of it all. This is what's known as your signal chain, signal flow, order of operations. Where am I plugging my microphone in? Or actually, even more important, where am I putting it to my talent? What is it doing inside of it? What wire runs to what recorder, et cetera, et cetera. So today, since we're doing heavy on the video side, not necessarily podcasting or otherwise, but all of those have this in it. You have what's called a preamp inside your unit. So in this case, this I believe was a Canon camera, just a screenshot. Take it off of auto mode. So the first thing is auto to manual. What that's going to do is take the camera out of the equation a little bit further. So auto is taking like the quiet things, making them really loud, taking the really loud things, making them quieter. It's kind of squashing everything down into this small little brick. And it doesn't do a good job of it. It's very active. It moves very fast. And that is often very distracting and it creates a lot of noise, etc. So take it and put it into manual. And what you're going to have are these meters down at the bottom of this slide that are going to run. And then from 40 to 0, in the case of Canon, forget about these numbers, because if you're using a Lumix GH4, which is one of the cameras I run with, the numbers might be different. What I like to teach on is a percentage value. So if that scale, that little L and R with 40 to 0, if that is 100% scale, I'm aiming for about 70 to 80%, which is about where that 12 is going to be. That is an average that I'm aiming for when I'm setting up my audio. So let's say we're setting up the audio for this. I actually did this inside of my Rodecaster Pro that's sitting to the right of me right now. You go into the levels and you set those meters to be at about 70 to 80% from the preamp first. It's the very first stage of turning your microphone into a usable level. After that, you have the big, large fader. Most people think that that's actually controlling the input. It's not. It's controlling the output. It's another stage in which you have to adjust audio, but it's not the more crucial part. So going back to video, inside the camera, you're going to turn this setting on, plug in your microphone, of course, before that, adjust the level up or down till your meters are dancing around that 12. And that gives you what's called headroom. You got enough room above the 12 to go if somebody kind of gets excited or if they yell louder or something changes, right? So if you hit 0, the kind of catchy saying in the industry is red, you're dead, right? So when that meter goes up to 0, it's going to start turning red and indicating that you're clipping, if you've heard that word. That is digital distortion, squares it off, makes it sound bad. We've all heard that distortion before. You want to try to avoid that as much as humanly possible. We're in a digital age, and without getting too deep into it, once it gets there, it can't go any farther. So you just don't want to. So you got to put that into your own signal. So I'm going to turn that meter up or down on the camera until my averages are around that 12. And what happens if somebody changes? What if I interview the second person? You got to do it again. And what you should be doing, like TJ and I did prior to this setup, is get on there and test it, right? Hey, could you tell me that part? I get this question with music often because it's so dynamic. It's very loud 1 second and then it's very quiet the next. Well, what you test for is the loudest part, so that when that louder part happens, it doesn't clip or distort. If your changes are too much from real quiet to really loud, you have to make adjustments for each individual one. And that should very much be a part of your pre-production. When are they going to talk quietly? When are they going to talk loudly? If you're interviewing and you're trying to wing it, you have to either be writing the levels by manually doing it, or you have to hit timeout, edit and post, or otherwise, and you have to be customizing it. So setting yourself up for a few of those capabilities is very crucial in what you're doing. So probably gonna
So
have
I want to jump in real quick and kind of, I feel like I know a lot of our audience is probably a photographer. So this is going to be very much like like the blinkies that happen or the zebras on the back of your camera. So if those are lit up on your camera, that means there's no information there. Well, this is kind of that same thing. So if you're past 0, that means there's no audible information. Like we're not going to be able to hear anything. So getting up to that 70 or 80% allows you to have room in the highlights and room in the shadows, if you will. I mean, these are photography terms that we hear all the time. You know, you have room to kind of edit, or headroom if you get brighter or darker. You know, we want our meter, if you will, to be right around that 70 to 80%. I think I said that right. Is that good, Ryan?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great analogy. Drives it home too for those people who are kind of thinking about one thing they have experience in versus maybe not having so much experience in the audio space. Yes, it's all that headroom. Once you got that digital data taken up, it can't go any farther. So very, very good analogy on that. We think about that with, I was earlier talking about shotguns too, like a zoom on a lens is kind of what we're looking at with a shotgun. It's not physically zooming, it's getting rid of certain things to pull in closer things and focus in on certain things. And that's kind of the same idea with that as a zoom lens. You can pull in on a subject or pull out on a subject depending on the type or the capsule or so forth. So two very good analogies from a photography world into audio world, and that was well said.
Awesome. So
Any
moving
more?
on. So what's our next thing? So we have looked at our channel flow, which is just how the audio is kind of flowing. We've talked a little bit about that, but on the actual camera itself, we're switching over to manual and making sure that we are at that kind of 70 to 80%. So what's next?
After that, we're going to get into number 2. right? So this is all, by the way, just importance levels that I put on them. You should be doing these all prior to. Microphone selection is obviously a pre-production thing that you're doing before you even think about anything. You got to go buy a microphone, right? So this is also usually when I'm talking about like picking a microphone for the job I'm thinking of doing, a YouTube video. I'm going to go do a vlog. I'm going to go and interview people. Your first question is, what microphone would I do? What microphone would I use for that? So inside of the road line, I like to kind of pinpoint a few of the ones that are going to be very important. The microphone type are these two words you see at the top of this slide: dynamic microphones, condenser microphones. A lot of people have heard those words, not 100% sure what they're doing. Very cool presentation based little GIFs that you'll see here as they break out. What you're getting is on the left, a dynamic microphone. A very long story short on that, diaphragm is capturing the energy of whatever's happened. Say it's your voice, right? On a dynamic microphone, it is a voice coil strapped to the back of that diaphragm moving across a magnet. It is interrupting that magnetic field, creating an audio signal. Plain and simple. That's kind of the easiest way to think about it. Most people will not. What you need to know about that is that it's slower. It's not as sensitive. So some good and bad things on that, depending on what you're going to record, would be things like it is it makes my voice sound prettier. I sound richer because all the bad stuff that's in my voice. This dynamic microphone that I'm using right here is going to pull out some of the lip smacks, some of the different things. A condenser microphone will capture every bit of that, and you will have it in that recording. Sometimes you want to sound natural. Sometimes you want to have it be a little bit friendlier to what you're doing. Typically with dialogue, no background music or stuff like that, you want it to be a little bit softer. So a dynamic microphone is really good for that. The other thing too is with it not being as responsive, it's not picking up the outside stuff nearly as easily as a condenser microphone. So like I was saying earlier, if I'm in my house and then somebody's watching TV down the hallway, a dynamic microphone will do less to pick that up. It will pick me up, but it will reject that a lot more. Condenser microphones are made to hear what is happening in the space you're in. Every bit of it is coming through that. So if you have enough volume or gain on that TV out there, it's going to come through that condenser microphone pretty easily. Things like vocals and singing for bands and stuff like that in a professional tuned studio, those are really good for condensers in dialogue space. But what about when we get out into the real world and we can't just put a microphone right up on their face? So to kind of drive that home, if you look down at the bottom of the slide, you got the M1 and the Reporter. Those are two dynamic microphones that are really great, both in the spaces of vocals on stage and interviews and so forth out on the street. You got a bunch of cars hustling and bustling by. A dynamic Reporter mic is going to do a better job of allowing you one distance to stick that microphone in front of somebody's face closer, right? But it's going to do less to pick up that car that's driving by right in that time, so it's more controlled. The Video Mic Pro Plus, you put that on top of, say, your DSLR, that Lumix GH4 that I have, run and gun type setup. What was rule number one or mantra number one? You still want to get that as close as humanly possible without ruining your shot. If I have a lens that's fixed, I can only go so far. Excuse me. I can only go so far to put that microphone closer to them. What's the next step? Well, you get an extension cable and you get a boom pole and you run and actually put it over the top of them. If you're fixed, you can put it on a stand and you could be the videographer and the microphone, the audio guy all at the same time, right? If you're still married to it being on the camera, it's on top of the camera, you have to try to get that camera closer or you have to minimize the problems around you. If that car goes by and that condenser microphone is on that camera at 10 feet, you will get a car as well. And so the weight of which is louder is going to win out on the shot. So your car's going to be louder, your person's going to be louder. And sometimes that change can be very distracting in a video. So you got to be cautious of that. Moves on to the next type, right? A lavalier, very popular in the space so that you can get that mic closer. It's discreet, it's smaller. If I see a lavalier on somebody, as soon as the video starts, I also trust it a little bit more. It's more likely to capture good audio than any distance mic. And again, I'm not trying to make it a road versus the world type of thing. I'm just saying, scientifically speaking, you get that microphone closer, things are better. So the lavalier microphone makes that option a little bit better. Plus, it doesn't necessarily ruin your shot. If you're doing a short film, a Hollywood film, you can't have it in there because it breaks up the imagination of it all. You can't just, Tom Hanks can't be there sitting on the bench in Forrest Gump and then he's got his lavalier on. Now all of a sudden he's not Forrest Gump. All of a sudden he is Tom Hanks, the actor, and you're out of the shot. You're out of the story. Moving on past that, we got stereo mics, we got professional shotguns. Professional shotguns, a common question I get with that is what's better? They're higher fidelity, and the big thing here is they have a balanced XLR output, so you can run them a long way, physically wired, so that they actually have that high fidelity for a greater distance. But then also just the response of them is going to be way more accurate than what's called an electret condenser, a true condenser or otherwise, but they have a better throw. So when I was talking about earlier that some of these mantras and rules are meant to be broken, the next question or the next answer is it is true that you can in fact get farther away from a shotgun microphone, but you cannot stop physics. So you have to make sure that you still present the room in a way that sounds good to whatever microphone you're choosing. Upgrading to a shotgun microphone like the NTG series from Rode is gonna increase the potential to get good audio from whatever distance better than another option. So going back to the stereo video mic real fast, stereo, this is another thing that I kind of repeat as far as the Rode line is concerned. Shotgun microphones are dialogue in general senses. So it's a mono single microphone pointed in that direction. It captures dialogue really well. Stereo is going to be two microphones pointed left and right, and they're going to capture ambience or music really well. So 2-second spiel, shotguns are dialogue, stereo mics are music and B-roll. So if you got a concert tomorrow, stereo is going to capture that image exactly how it goes. I don't think anybody has a concert tomorrow with everything that's going on, but you get the idea. So after that, polar patterns are the next thing that I'm choosing and looking at. If you've heard these terms, they are the scientific terms. I'll try to do my best to give you the on the street names, right? So polar patterns, cardioid, super or hypercardioid, and then omni. Cardioid is in general terms going to be, so what you're looking at on this slide is a top view, and then up is the front of the microphone. It's what we call on axis to the microphone. So the side that captures audio. And then the null point is the point in which it's trying to cancel sound. So on the first slide there, I'm sorry, on the first image, cardioid, you'll notice that it's really tight in the back side of that microphone and really open on the front. Its goal, like this pod mic in front of me, is a cardioid dynamic microphone. If I talk into the back of it, it's going to reduce the level significantly. And on the front, it's going to be 100% on, right? So that's why I'm standing in front of it and making sure that it's as close to me as I can get it while doing this presentation. Now the back of it's going to cancel out and reduce a lot of those things. So going back to one of my mantras, it's about what I get rid of. I'm trying to point the back of this microphone to the bad. Okay. So just simply point it where you want it and make sure the back of it actively is canceling some of the things you don't want. Other people talking, cars moving. That's how you take advantage of that polar pattern. After that, super and hypercardioid, often called a shotgun microphone. Most people don't know that that's actually just emulating the shotgun blast of an actual gun, right? It disperses kind of in this directional but spread out pattern. It's more directional in front of the microphone. So cardioid is directional, but it's not hyperdirectional. Super and hypercardioid is hyperdirectional in front. That's why people go, I can get farther away from this microphone. Yes, still true. Not always the best approach to it, right? You still want to focus on getting it closer. What people don't know about that microphone is it's got to let a little bit of audio into the back to make it work. So it lets a little in the back, makes it more directional in front, and cancels mostly from the sides. If you actually look at the second image, it's 30 to 45 degrees off of the back side of it. That's where it's canceling. Again, I'm using that spot to minimize influence of other things. So for a cardioid pattern microphone, it's going to be a wider pickup, but it's going to cancel the backside directly. And a hypercardioid or a supercardioid, a shotgun microphone, is going to cancel more to the side. Omni is everything. And this is typically one of the things that you're going to use for ambiences. So I just need to capture what's happening around me. And I want it to be ambient. I want it to sound like the room that I'm in. Omnidirectional microphones are used for that. The other thing we use omnidirectional for is lavalier microphones. So if I turn my head, actually I'm going to do it right in front of this microphone right now because it's cardioid. If I turn my head, you're going to hear it reduce as I go away from it. As I come back in, it's going to start doing that. So it slowly reduces that level. Omnidirectional won't do that at all. So I can put a lavalier on my collar, on my pocket, whatever. If I turn my head, it doesn't change the tone of the audio. It's capturing the best it can. If I put that lavalier really close, all of a sudden it's not as big of an issue. In live sound, we're going to use things like cardioid lavaliers. Yes, they will drop out in volume and so forth, but they will get less of the speakers that are actually going out into the crowd, causing less feedback issues and things like that. So if you have more questions on that, please ask. Microphone features, going to roll through these real fast. Everybody's seen these a lot. So 150 hertz and 75 hertz roll off. What you're looking at right here is a zoomed in image of the VideoMic Pro Plus from Rode. 150 and 75 is the roll off, and that's the frequency in which it's going to do that. Then you got a pad or a preamp.
Can we pause real quick? So let's explain that. Like, what does roll off mean? Like, what does that?
Oh,
what does that
you
mean?
are ahead of me, sir.
Oh, sorry, my
No,
bad.
all good. All good. And I just want to say, oh, this is the button I'm looking at, right? So if I look at this on the back of any microphone, this is what we're talking about. And last but not least, safety track. But TJ, absolutely correct, man. This is a little chart that I made up finally after drawing this a million times for so many people. It looks a little bit daunting at first, but I promise to run this down for you. First and foremost, on the right-hand side of this graph, you see the 0 to plus 20 and then a 0 to negative 20. That is our pad or preamp you'll see on the bottom of the slide. Over on the left-hand side, you got these horizontal lines, right? On average, we as humans hear 20 to 20,000 hertz. Again, we're going back to things that that's jargon, right? It's words that we use in the industry. Don't be freaked out by that. All you need to know is on average, humans hear from this range. It is a number that we gave it, and that's how you measure it. So when you're measuring it, 80 hertz, I like to say like a kick drum. It's something most people kind of are used to hearing. When you're at a concert, you hear that subwoofer just right into your chest. Boom. A lot of 80 hertz, 100 hertz, 200. It's a spectrum. You hear a lot of these all the time. If you've heard the national warnings, you've heard what's called a sine wave. That is one frequency, usually around 1 or 2K. It's just beep. That's one frequency. We as humans don't hear that often, or I should say we don't put those out in the world. When I'm talking, it's a bunch of frequencies. So even a kick drum has a bunch. But low frequencies are things like wind rumble, air conditioner rumbles, just simply vibrations from the highway out back. Wind, everybody, right? That's the first thing in video that we're trying to reduce. Please, 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 if you go outside, use a furry windjammer. But on top of that, you probably want to roll off. So what I'm doing here, so go back here, right? On the left slide, the left picture, you got a roll off, 75 and 150. So if you look at my slide, the line, and then you see this dotted line that's kind of slanting down at 80 hertz. That's a roll off. It's getting rid of, rolling off those frequencies to where they don't influence the microphone. So they'll still influence the microphone, I should say, but then afterwards they just get reduced so your camera doesn't record them. So if that rumble of the wind is happening around 80 hertz and below, it will just turn them down. That's it. And so on that same vein, the pad and preamp are taking the entire spectrum and turning them up or down. What I like to say here is think about your TV remote volume. Take your TV, turn it up by 20 clicks. You just added preamp by 20. And then if you take your TV remote and turn it down by 10, you just reduced everything by 10. So if I roll it off to get rid of the wind, right, to reduce the wind, and then I also engage the pad, I just turned everything plus the roll off down by 10. So on that diagram there, if it's 150, you just take that 80 hertz and move it up to 150. Now it's not to scale, I apologize. 20,000 is a lot of frequencies, but at the same time, you get the idea. 80 up to 150. Now what I teach people as why this matters. Why do you care? 50 versus 80 is going to be audibly, you're going to hear it. So 80 hertz, when I'm doing dialogue with the VideoMic Pro Plus, I will always have the 80 hertz roll off on. James Earl Jones does not get that low. They might touch into it, but it's very non-musical. It's not usable in dialogue often. So you roll it off and get rid of the wind or anything down there that is not usable for dialogue. Human voice doesn't really get down there. But all of a sudden I click the 150 hertz and now it's going to affect the human voice. It is not nearly enough. Let's say if I'm at Comic-Con, 150,000 people just rambling around me in an echoey, reverberant conference hall of some sort. That constant noise is going to be inside of that 150 hertz. Most likely, if I go do an interview at that location, I'm going to roll it off at 150 hertz. Now, it's an artistic endeavor. 80 hertz is physical, 150 is more artistic. You want to turn it on, record, turn it off, record in your pre-production to see if it makes it better. And if it does, use it. right? That kind of becomes more of a artistic choice instead. So this is also where a high frequency boost comes into play. Instead of it being the low side, it'll be the higher side, which think like cymbal crashes and stuff like that. Again, you can't just say one frequency, but it adds what we call presence, air. It kind of lifts the human voice out of the recording a little bit. So at a scene like Comic-Con, I'd use that there too. TJ, any questions
Yeah,
on that?
so I do. So a few takeaways just from these two slides. I think these have been really, really helpful. Number one is, if I want to get rid of some of those lower end frequencies or like the wind, I want to use, if you go back to your last slide, I want to use the little roll off, because the 75 and the 150, that's basically saying, hey, get out of my recording. I don't want you here. And then I don't have to process them in post, if you will. I don't have to try to get rid of them with software or my audio editor.
That's
and
correct.
For photographers, I mean, that's very similar to, putting a lens shade on, the end of your lens. You're canceling out the light that's coming in from, the sides. You're putting that on there so you don't have to edit it in post. It's
There you
kind of
go.
that same idea with roll off. We don't want that in there.
That's
So
right.
now pad and preamp is, I want to move everything up. So this is like exposure compensation. I want the whole scene to be brighter, or I want the whole scene to be darker.
Yes.
That's what the pad or the preamp's going to do. It's going to either magnify the whole scene or bring the whole scene down. Would that be correct?
That is correct. Now, TJ, let me ask you, because this is a common misconception here too. And sorry to put you on the spot, but plus 20, I'm turning it up by a ton. 20 dB is a lot. What's the first misconception you think that plus 20 means for me? And go back, think of the first rule I gave in my mantras. What do people think plus 20 gets me?
Oh, that it's more sensitive so I can be further away?
I am. Is that correct?
I don't believe so.
Is not the first focus.
Right.
Plus 20 is going to allow me to turn up the microphone. Let the audio guy do the audio. And then the camera, no offense to any of the camera companies, but they're the first to admit to you typically that preamps aren't that great. They're getting better every single day, but they're not an audio company. They're not preamp makers, right? Necessarily. So plus 20 is going to allow the audio guy to do a louder record. Like, it's boosting that level at a proper stage. Where it should be boosted so that you can use it better at the camera. It allows me to turn up the microphone and turn down the camera. Remember that 80%, that 70, 80% I was aiming for? If I turn up the microphone, I'm going to hit that 80% a lot faster. Then I can turn the camera down back to, say, 1 to start out with, and then I fine tune there. The microphone's going to be your first place to adjust, so I might go from plus 20 down to 0 if I'm clipping at plus 20 and the camera's on 1. But then once I'm back to 0, then I'm going to fine tune the camera. The whole goal is to minimize the influence of the camera's preamp first. Yep. After that, yes, you are correct. You can get farther away. However, what'd we say? If your room is okay, if you're in a pro studio, turn it up, go crazy. You're going to be fine. But if you're in the world, which most of you are going to be, it's not meant for making it go further.
Absolutely. Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Safety track is going to be the last thing real fast. There's a new feature added. This is a very cool idea. We used to actually put 2 microphones up and one would be quieter than the other. That was our safety net to make sure that we always had good audio. If it clips out at 0, right, then it's dead. We're done. Red, you're dead. Right. So 2 microphones would allow me to take the left and make it 10 dB less, and then the right would be full volume. So with the safety track on the Rode VideoMic Pro Plus and now the new VideoMic NTG, you actually have the ability to have the right side of your microphone. Let me rephrase. Sorry, this is a common misconception. It's still a mono microphone, but inside the digital circuitry, we actually were able to split the left and right that goes to your camera, making the right side full volume and the left side 10 dB down. It takes 2 seconds to edit in post. You got to pan them both center, and then you'll turn the left one off. And you'll take the right one, which is full volume, and correction here, left is full volume inside of that, but my image from the Canon here was the right side. So on the road, left side is full volume, right side is going to be 10 dB down. So you're trying to turn the right off. And then if something happens to your left, if you distort and clip, you can just go to that extra track and pull it back into your final production. Gives you one more safety place, safe bit of audio to grab and replace your bad audio.
So safety track is a good, like, kind of a backup, if you will. Like, hey, let's say I screw something up, I might as well use that extra channel or extra feature in order to kind of cover myself, to make sure I don't screw it up.
Yeah, this is a run and gun feature, 100%. If I am on camera top going right into my DSLR, I'm going to boost 20 dB and then fine tune the camera down to 1, right? And make those levels pretty decent. When somebody's talking and then they clip, I can now go to my safety track and post. So vlogging and so forth, something crazy happens, you got to record it right now. You don't necessarily have time to go and adjust your preamp. So this safety track gives you 10 dB more of room to have that accident happen. Now you can go and just replace the left with the right, and you're hopefully going to be safe. If something's so loud, like a shotgun blast or something, you're hunting, those things are going to pass 10 dB a lot. But dialogue and interviews and vlogging and running guns, that's everyday stuff, is not going to cross that threshold. So you have a second track with one microphone to cover you in case of a bad situation.
Awesome. And I think too, the wedding videographers out there, that's kind of that, you don't know when stuff's going to happen. You don't know, when you're going to hear this, bridesmaid go crazy over something, and you might not be ready for it. This allows you to have that safety track to be able to go back and, like you said, kind of fix that audio.
100%. Absolutely.
Cool.
Very cool.
I do want to go over to the, questions real quick. Just a couple good points too. Tech Gear Talk. Quick tip: when you do a sound test with someone, they tend to speak softly. Ask them to tell you about something they are passionate about, so their voice goes up higher, or up to rather normal levels. So good tip. Good
100%.
tip. Good tip.
I will add something to that too. If you simply ask them personal things like that was saying, that tip is wonderful. But right before you even start recording, having just a normal conversation with somebody. What'd you have for breakfast today? How's your mother? Just random things. You can't do that with every client, but you find something personal to talk about, find a common ground. You'll get them talking. They'll forget the camera's even rolling.
Right. Absolutely. And then we did have a hello from our friend Richard up in Michigan. So hello, people. So just wanted to throw that out there as well. So cool. Let's move on. What is our next thing that we are going to talk about?
That was it, man. That is my presentation. Yeah, application.
Awesome. Very good. So we do want to open it up for any questions. So what questions do we have for Ryan? We kind of left it to, we've been going for actually quite a long time. I was thinking that we were going to go till like 1, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's already over. Like there's still 15 minutes, but no, that was actually a really, really long time. Actually perfectly timed there. So good job.
You think about, so.
Good. So what questions do we have? We do want to open this up. I know this was a lot of information, but I asked Ryan to get a little bit more technical, because I feel like there's people that would join this live stream later on that want a little bit more technical than someone saying, hey, just get this mic and throw it on your camera. This live stream was meant for you to be able to go back to as a resource as you're learning a little bit more and be like, what was that button? What did that button look like on that microphone? Roll off. That's what roll off is. And honestly, Ryan and I've been friends with Ryan for a really long time. And it wasn't actually until this presentation that I fully now understand roll off. I understood the idea of it, but now he brought out that little diagram, and that really helped me. So like I was saying in the beginning, this was selfish for me to learn a little bit more about audio as well, but for you guys to go back and have a resource that you can go to. And we were going to have Ryan out here in person a couple of weeks ago, but with everything going on, he wasn't able to come out. But keep an eye on our events, because we are working on some audio related events where you can get hands-on with these things. We are fully stocked with microphones here at Pixel Connection. So if you want to try any of these microphones, if you want to do some tests, do some setups, you can absolutely do that, especially once our store is open back up. I am personally a huge fan of Rode. I'm actually using a Rode microphone here myself, the NT USB, which I'm excited for that mini one to come out. But if you do have any questions, please feel free to reach out. Myself, anybody at the store will be happy to help you. So thank you very much for coming, Ryan. I appreciate it. Doesn't look like any questions are coming in. That means you did a good job. You answered everybody's questions. So thank you so much for spending your lunch with us. And if anybody has questions, please let us know. Thank you guys very much, and have a good day.